Hello my lovelies, welcome to my channel. This is motherhood and girlhood all wrapped in one. Today we are going to be talking about my pregnancy journey and everything that I wish I knew before I got pregnant. So hopefully this video will help you if you're a first-time mom, if you just found out you're pregnant, or if you're trying to get pregnant. Hopefully something in my journey can help you out. Other than that, let's get on with the video. I should really preface the video and say that this is my experience and my journey. It may not apply to you, okay? So if I say anything that scares you, or if you're like, that didn't happen to me, or my sister was pregnant and that didn't happen to her, it's okay. Everybody's pregnancy is different because every baby is different, okay? So this is just my experience and my journey. When my husband and I decided that we wanted to start trying for a baby, it was April of 2024, and in June I got pregnant and tested positive, and then the very next day I got my period. So we were pretty distraught and confused because I had taken multiple tests and all of them said I was pregnant. I will say the first test I took, there was a super faint line. And so then I took a digital one and it said I was pregnant. But I looked it up. I didn't go to the doctor or anything like that because it was literally a one-day difference, and I didn't experience anything other than like a normal period, I guess, and you know, just being really sad throughout it. I was looking it up and I do believe it was a chemical pregnancy. I'm not 100% sure if it was, but that's what I think it is. It was really hard to start trying again after that. I think we waited like a month maybe before we started trying again, just because I did not want to experience that again so soon. Kept trying. It took us 8 months before we conceived Olive. December 8th we tested positive, and I was very cautious. I just didn't believe it after what had happened in June. I just was very cautious and slow to proceed, and I really didn't believe it. I kept thinking I was gonna get my period. And then 9 months later, we had our sweet baby girl, Olive. Here's the things that I wish I would have known before we started trying. I wish that I would have put more effort into figuring out a routine and kind of just nailing down something consistent, because I've never been good at that. I've never been very disciplined. I think it would be really helpful if you kind of already have a routine in place before you get pregnant, because after you get pregnant, that is really important, especially after baby's here. It's really important to have a routine, in my opinion. I wish that I had educated myself more, and I wish that I knew more about the process of trying, the process of pregnancy, of childbirth, and the process of postpartum and like becoming a mother and what that looks like. I just wish that I had looked into that more and educated myself. But once I got pregnant, the education just started happening. I was on TikTok, I was reading books, I was listening to podcasts, I was watching YouTube videos. Like, I was trying to absorb as much information as possible. And I do believe that knowledge is power, but I also think that ignorance is bliss. Another really important thing that I would keep in mind is to avoid all horror stories involving pregnancy, childbirth, and aftercare, postpartum, all that good stuff. You do not want to be feeding yourself anything negative about the experience, because that will just make your experience negative, and it will just always be in the back of your mind as a what if. And it just causes unnecessary fear. So I would not consume anything negative about pregnancy if you're pregnant. The last thing that I really wish that my husband and I had prioritized while we were trying was paying off our debt. We were chipping away at it. I think we could have done a much better job. We could have done more to try and pay off our debt, but we kind of just did the bare minimum. So in the first trimester, it was a whirlwind. The first few days after I tested positive, I had some really, I wouldn't say intense cramping. It was just like normal period cramping. Like, I kept going to the bathroom thinking that I started my period. And after what happened to me in June, that was just kind of a fear of mine that like it wasn't actually happening. When we had our first ultrasound, it was so cool seeing Olive. She was 10 weeks at the time, and she was literally like kicking and moving around. I did not realize how active they are, even though they are so small. I will say my ultrasound was really painful. I did not have to deal with Wanda, don't you worry. You have to come with a full bladder, and so when I got there, First of all, when you're pregnant, you have to pee so bad all the time. It's just always there, okay? So I have to pee so bad. My bladder is full to the brim. I get down on the table. She lifts up my shirt. She starts rubbing the liquid on me. I don't know what it's called. And she starts rubbing it on my tummy, and then she goes in with the thing. I need to figure out what the terms are for this. She goes in with the thing, though, and they're like pressing into your stomach. And so my bladder is full, and she's just digging it into my stomach and just moving all of it around. I can feel it in my back. Like, it hurts so bad. It was so uncomfortable. So I wish that I knew that it would probably be uncomfortable the first time I had an ultrasound. I was 22, so at that first appointment, they wanted me to do a pap smear because I hadn't had one before. And I kind of didn't want to do it, but I was also kind of like, well, let's just get it over with. I ended up doing the pap smear. You guys, it was not bad at all. And I can't tell you how frustrated I was that women paint it to be this like painful, horrible procedure. It lasted maybe 30 seconds and I could barely feel anything. There was a slight pinch, a little swab of a little Q-tip, and then she was out. It was done. It was done. I think it's really nice to have someone there with you. My husband was with me, and so I kind of just looked at him and talked to him the whole time and like just tried to relax my body as much as possible. It was so easy. It did not hurt. It was fine. But I totally, like, if you have a sensitive system, then it might not be the same for you. But I just don't want women to be afraid of getting something that's really important just because so many other women kind of fearmonger, even if it's true. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you can be valid in the way that something kind of hurt you, but also we don't have to scare a bunch of women because your story is not going to be their story. All that to say, pap smears are not bad. If you have a sensitive system, they might not be great, but I would just try and be as relaxed as possible. Bring someone with you if you would like. It is so fast, and it's not that scary the way that women make it seem, okay? I also just want to mention that working while pregnant is illegal. It should be, at least. It was the absolute worst. I've never hated anything more in my life. The fatigue, you're so tired. You are so tired. I can't tell you how much I slept the first trimester. I was so tired. And I don't know how I didn't know that was a symptom. I just didn't. I guess I didn't research that enough. I think I was so caught up in the idea of like cravings and morning sickness and like the obvious symptoms like that I just didn't even realize you're just beat, dude. You're like, it's like you've been working for your entire life, and it's also like you've never eaten in your entire life. You are so hungry all of the time. Even if you don't have an appetite, you're so hungry all of the time. I wish I knew how tired I would be. I was not prepared for that. I just wasn't educated on what that would be like, and truly you don't know until you experience it. But just be prepared to be in a phase of relaxation. You need to be relaxing, you need to be resting, you just need to be taking it easy, okay? Because you're gonna be beat. Don't make any plans. Just don't do it. I wish that I had known what a doctor's appointment was gonna look like and kind of like what the flow of that would look like, just to ease some of my own anxiety. Sometimes you get an ultrasound, sometimes you're just meeting with the doctor. I thought I would have an ultrasound at every appointment. I only had it at the first appointment. I had one when she was 20 weeks, which was halfway, and then I had one more at the end because she was getting kind of big and they wanted to see just how big she was because I was near the due date and they were concerned. Working while pregnant sucked, so I wish that my husband and I had prepared more for me to be able to stay home when I got pregnant. That was always something that was communicated, was that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I just wish that we had prioritized that a little bit more so that I could have really fully rested in my pregnancy instead of working full-time and being pregnant at the same time, because that was doo-doo butt cheeks. Okay, so enter the second trimester. Once the second trimester hit, my food aversion pretty much went away. My appetite was insane. I felt like a grown man. I would eat way more than I normally would, and I would have a second helping. Like, it was insane, the amount of food I was eating, and I would still be hungry afterwards. I gained 90 plus pounds. Okay. With all that eating, my bump finally made an appearance, which was super kind of just like out of nowhere. I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, like I've got a cute little bump. You'll know, because it'll pop and you'll just be like, oh, there she is. Wow, look at you go. You will realize like your clothes are getting tighter. Like you can't get your jeans over your thighs anymore. I was a sweatpants girl, still am. And my sweatpants would leave like indentions around my stomach because of how large I was getting. Eventually, I had to wear my husband's clothes because my clothes did not fit me anymore. And the reason why I couldn't go buy maternity clothes is because everywhere I went, there were no maternity sections. I could not find any maternity sections. I was like, where are all the maternity clothes? What am I supposed to do? And I didn't know what type of maternity clothes to buy. So I went to the thrift store. And I was pretty early in the second trimester, so I was still like small, but I was definitely bumping. And I'm like, oh, like this is a medium, it should fit me, you know, this is a good maternity dress or whatever. Y'all, I needed large or extra large because that's what I was. I was large or extra. I got big. My bump was bumping, and I was large, okay? I did not fit into anything I thought I would. I had to take all of my jeans and put them in a separate area of my house. It was the most frustrating part about being pregnant for me as a whole, was just finding clothes to wear, trying to feel cute, and just being so frustrated at the fact that like nothing fits, and if it does fit, sometimes it fits awkward or it looks awkward and you look weird. And you're a girl like me and you're a skinny twig your whole life, and then you gain 90 plus pounds over the course of a few months. It's hard to adjust. Also, something I wish I knew that I was kind of actually really disappointed by is that you will not always have weird cravings. I had cravings, but they were not weird. I know people who like to put olives in their ice cream and peanut butter on something like pickles. I don't know. But I didn't have anything like that. My cravings were very straightforward. I was watching a TikTok, there was a Burger King bag in the TikTok, and I said, I want Burger King fries, and that was it. I need Burger King fries right now or I might actually explode. That was my cravings. Like, they were just random. I never liked crab ragoon. All of a sudden, I loved crab ragoon. I wanted nothing but crab ragoon. I'm actually pretty sure you're not allowed to have crab ragoon while you're pregnant. I didn't care. Another thing I wish I knew, what you're allowed to eat and what you're not allowed to eat. Now, some women will say, just eat whatever you want, it's fine. To each their own, okay? But there are some things that you're technically not supposed to eat because of the risks they pose. You can look it up for yourself, but I wish I knew because it just would have been nice to know before I was about to eat something and then someone was like, oh, you actually can't have that. Great. No, that's great. Thanks. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, by the second trimester, I was definitely feeling like cute pregnant mom, cute little bump, like this ain't so bad. Why is everyone complaining kind of thing? And then that brings us to the third trimester. Third trimester was, for me, in the middle of summer because my due date's in August. So we had the baby shower in June. That was a mistake. You should never do a baby shower in your third trimester. In my personal opinion, you should never do that ever because, one, I was so swollen. I hate my baby shower photos because I'm too pregnant. Had I done it in the second trimester, I think I would have been, one, a lot more energized, and two, I would have felt a lot better and like just more cute and confident in my pregnant body. Third trimester, it was survival mode, baby, okay? Everything hurts. Everything's uncomfortable. Your body is not your own. Baby is doing cartwheels and aerodynamics and all types of crazy stuff in your stomach while you're just trying to live, okay? It just starts to get very real that baby is going to make an exit soon. And it's sweet, and I love it, and I miss it. But also, the closer you get to the end, the more you're just like, I need this to be done and over with. Like, I need to be able to sleep without waking up 5 times throughout the night to go pee. Something that I wish I knew not just for the third trimester, but just kind of overall, is how comfortable people are with making comments on your body. I was getting comments from literal family members and strangers, multiple people telling me that I looked fat, and they were just like, oh, still fat. Yep. Yes, I am, because there's a baby. Oh, you got twins in there? Nope. Just one baby. Guys, honestly, one of the most frustrating things about pregnancy is everybody asks the same questions. Everybody says the same things. You will hear these same things over and over and over again. It will not stop. I'm gonna get too heated, okay? Just, how are you? How are you doing? It's sweet. It's sweet. I love that you care, but also, please stop asking me. You don't understand how many times I get asked that question in a day, every single day, every week, every month of my pregnancy, okay? Just a PSA, leave the pregnant women alone. Stop asking them questions, or just get more creative with the questions. Ask really creative questions. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. It all came back to me right there. Something that I prioritized in my third trimester that I think you should definitely do the same is listening to positive birth stories. I would listen to them on Spotify. I would find podcasts and I would listen to positive birth stories. I wanted to have an unmedicated birth, so that was really key for me. I wish I knew that the third trimester is similar to the first, where you really need to be resting and relaxing and just hibernation mode, chill mode. Don't make a lot of plans. Don't overload your brain. Like, you just need to chill and hang out, babe, until the baby is out. I wish that I was more, like, it's kind of a hard balance, because I wish I was more informed about complications with pregnancy, but also I didn't want to feed my brain any sort of fear about those kinds of things. There was a moment in my third trimester where I thought I was leaking amniotic fluid, and we had called the doctor who was on call, and we were like, hey, we're not sure if we're leaking amniotic fluid. This is what's happening. The doctor was actually really rude and condescending, and she was just like, well, if you think you're leaking amniotic fluid, then you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I'm leaking amniotic fluid. Like, how is there any way for me to tell? Can you help me out here? And she was just like, well, if you think that... Okay, I don't know what I think. I've never done this before. You're not being helpful, and you're just like talking down to me and making me feel really stupid for even asking, when this is what they tell you to do. They tell you to call the doctor. I don't want to scare you, okay? Call your doctor if you have questions. The doctor on call in that instance was just really unhelpful and rude. That's another thing that I would be prepared for in your pregnancy. If you get a great doctor, wonderful, perfect. I had an awesome doctor. Your doctor will not always be available. There were some appointments I had where I got assigned a different doctor because my doctor was not available, and they were not great appointments because those doctors were rude and pushy, and they just didn't listen to me. They were not advocates for their patients. I would just be aware of that, and I would really be aware of standing your ground and kind of having a game plan in your head of saying yes to this, saying no to this, and standing your ground on that, because there were things that my husband and I wanted to do, and there were things that we did not want to do. And when we got pushback on some of those things, it was a bit of a battle where we had to be like, no, actually, we're not doing that. I would just be prepared in that aspect of that with doctors, even nurses, you guys. Hospitals can have their policies, but they're not law, okay? Aside from the literal law. So stand your ground. You're the patient. You're in charge. You're the boss. But also make educated decisions, okay? I am going to touch a little bit on childbirth and labor and delivery. I did have an unmedicated childbirth. It was amazing. I wish I could do it 100 times over. I was so happy I was able to do it. It was really, really cool. Here's what I wish I knew before we got there. So Olive was super, super low, which is great. But when they tried to check me to see how dilated I was, it was extremely uncomfortable. And let's just say they were digging for gold. Like, it was just really difficult for them to get to my cervix because Olive was so low. That was something I was not really prepared for, and honestly, like, if I could go back in time, I think I would have declined that maybe the first time. But yeah, so just be aware. And then the last thing, don't follow all the trends on TikTok and Instagram and wherever else you see them about everything you need in your hospital bag. There's so much stuff you don't need that you just don't need, okay? I feel like my story was really scattered, but I hope that it helped shed some light and that it can encourage you. I hope you learned something new today. My biggest takeaway would be just educate yourself, but also ignorance is bliss. So don't go digging in areas that might instill fear in you, but definitely look into things that you are curious about and just learn more about what the process looks like, what pregnancy, childbirth looks like, and especially in postpartum, and what happens to you immediately after birth. I think that's all really important, and it's helpful when you can back stuff up with fact, because in the moment when something happens and you don't know what's going on, the fear just comes rolling in because you don't understand what's happening, you don't understand why it's happening. So the education aspect of that is really important, and I will say it helped me out a lot to know like some of the medical terms like episiotomy and what that means, and if I wanted that or not, and what that would mean if I did get that, and like what the risks are. Like, there's just so much to learn, and I know it can feel so overwhelming. I promise you, you have time. It's okay, just take it a day at a time, do what you can, and that is enough, okay? So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys liked this video. If you do, please leave a like or comment down below what your journey was like, or something that you wish you knew, so that other first-time moms can read through the comments and see some stuff that might help them out on their journey. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Love you guys. Bye!